Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher.
So let's jump right into it.
We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is shaking, YouTube? It is not only me, it is Lawrence at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, but also have Rohan from Back in the Game Comics and, of course, Absolute Game of Nerds podcast. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good. How you doing, man? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, man. Thank you for joining me, Ellie. I was saying, we were just talking about it backstage. I think everybody's a little bit scared to come on the show and talk 2023 and 2024. Or maybe everybody's busy, but who knows, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the more I like discussion, and the more opinions, the better, I say.
Yeah, I mean, and from my perspective, 2023 it wasn't the greatest of years for comics, but in general, for me, I think I had a pretty good year. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, when you say in terms of comic, talk in terms of like value or like, because I would say it was like a good year in the sense that like when I first came back in 2022, like I was in this point where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford because of the boom, and now I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I can actually realistically set goals and achieve them. So in that regard, I thought it was a great year. Yeah, so I mean, that's what I would say. Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't just about values, but it was just about like, I'll get more into this as we go into everything 2023, but like a lot of people leaving the hobby, values going down, people scared to kind of hold on to their books because they saw prices going down. So that's what I mean by it wasn't a great year for comics, stuff like that. We're going to get into it a little bit more, but I want to just welcome everybody out there in the community. Welcome everybody who's in the chat, and I'll let people file in. I know it's still early, and I know it's 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, and actually only 4 o'clock on the West Coast where Rohan is. So people are probably still working, but this is our time to kind of come on and just talk about this. So if you're watching us on the rewind, do me a favor, hit that like button for me because it really helps the channel out. But yeah, where do you want to start? You want to start with to me, I'll pick it because I have like a set schedule. I sent it to you already. The biggest thing
Yeah.
for me this year, and I'm going to be honest with you, what really got me going this year for comics was CGC increasing their prices for a third time in 2 years. So that set me off. What was your reaction to it, and what do you think about it now? Your first reaction and what it is now.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little context here. So first off, I already thought it's just a lot of money to grade books. And so like I always kind of had this floor level value that a book had to be for me to take the time to grade it. And when I first came in, I had a lower floor, and I kind of learned like it's just not worth it to grade something below a floor I set. And so when the prices increased, and it's like the big one was they had that $1,000 to $3,000 level, which is now everything above 1,000 is walkthrough. For me, that essentially eliminates almost everything I go after, right? Because I don't have the ability to buy like super high, because I like big keys, just like you like big keys. And so I'm going for a lot of these in lower grade, which are going to be right in that, my Giant Size X-Men 1, my Fantastic Four 48. These are in that $1,000 to $3,000 range. And when you take that out and now bump me up to walkthrough, it's just like I will just rather put money towards more comic books.
And that's how I felt as well. I mean, when I first got back into collecting, CGC for like, and I'm going back a while now, but it was like $65 to send a book in, which wasn't bad. But as you start to buy some of the bigger keys that I got into and stuff like that, now where it was like, all right, you could get away with sending anything $1,000 to like $3,500 for like, it was like $85 at one point, which is not too bad. Now with the latest price increase, anything over $1,000 is 4% and a minimum of $150. So when I started collecting, it was like, yeah, let me send all this stuff to CG. And people think I hate slabs, and that is not the case, guys. I used to love slabs, and I love the way they, present in my room here. You guys used to remember, if you're watching me for a long time, I used to have a giant wall of slabs behind me. But the fact that anything over $1,000 is going to cost you $150 to send in. That means if you're sending 4 books, that's $600 that you're throwing out the window. When I could take $600, what could I buy? I could buy a nice key. I could buy like a mid to high grade Batman 251, like a great cover. first Neil Adams Joker, stuff like that. I'd rather have the book than spend the money on the grade. And that's why, like, I have personally just stopped sending books in, because I just think it's become a colossal waste of money if you're not buying the grade and you just want the book.
Yeah, I mean, and I consider even more that, because if you think it's $150 is the grading fee, you're
Yeah.
probably going to spend money for someone to clean and press it if you don't do it yourself. So we'll just say at a minimum 15 to 20 bucks there. You got to pay for the shipping there. We'll say 20 bucks if you're shipping it, 15, 20 bucks. And then their shipping back isn't that like 30 or
Minimum,
35 or something like
depending on
that?
what you choose. Yeah, well, depending on what you choose to come back.
$200. And so, yeah, like if I have 4 books to grade, $800. I mean, you could buy great stuff with that. And so I just am now at this point, like I'm at a point now where, again, when I buy books, I don't care if it's slab or raw. I just, wherever I find the value of the deal for the book I'm looking for, I'll grab it, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
raw or whether it's slab. And then from there, I just like, if it's raw now, I'm at a point where it's like, it has to be something that's like big time for me to like want. Like I would say my floor is 1,000, let's just say value wise, but in all truth, like it's a book that's got to be worth probably several $1,000s for me to be like, okay, I should really invest in grading this to get that value actually realized.
Yeah, and I remember at some point that high value tier was 3%, and it was for books like 5,000 and over or something like
Mhm.
that that generally deserves. All right, that's a lot of money to spend on a book. I get why CGC is charging this amount of money. For $1,000 to spend that kind of for $1,000 book to spend that kind of money, it just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why for now I've stopped sending books in, because I don't need to spend that money on that. But I'm glad to see, your take is basically the same as mine. We want to put our money, where value is, because you're getting something in return. You're spending all that money. What are you getting in return besides just a nice, holder?
Yeah, and I also think too, like it's not like raw books are having it. They're selling, right? Raw books are.
Yeah.
It's not like raw books don't sell. So I also think too, like, do I need to grades? Because theoretically, I could upgrade, and that upgrade I trade up towards could be slabbed, and so then I don't have to do that process again. So it just seems that it's not worth it to me at all, really, at this point, unless I like find something at a garage sale that's like a big thing. It's like, well, okay, now I need to actually invest in this thing.
So let me ask you a question. We all know what's going on at CGC right now. We're going to touch on it too in this live stream, but do you think CGC lowers prices now that with everything going on and saying, "Hey, we want to do something back for the community. We're going to lower our prices to this for a little bit," or you think they're just full steam ahead? Because there's guys out there who are saying they're going to raise prices again because of this.
Oh no, when I think about all the outcomes, them lowering prices is the not even something that came onto my radar. I would not expect them to raise or to lower prices at all.
Because it's to me, they have to do something besides what they're doing. Now, we're going to get into that later because that's like the last thing in 2023 because it just hit right before the end of the year that we're going to talk about. But I think we're on the same page. Let me just catch up with everybody in the chat who's in here and just say hello. And if you guys in the chat have an opinion about this prices being raised at the beginning of the year, I want to hear from you guys. So hello to Jan's X-Men Comics. What's going on, brother? Chad W. DZ21. What's going on, Danny? Chef, what's going on? How are you, bud? Happy New Year to you. A person turquoise waving. There
Wait,
you
what does that
go.
mean?
I don't know. That was Dan, so I know you know him.
Yeah, I
Person
know Dan. I
turquoise.
don't know. I have to ask what that means.
Maybe that was maybe that should maybe an emoji that came up as a
Oh,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I have no idea. He says there are times to grade a book if you plan to sell, trade a book, and the value of the raw book equals significantly less than the value of its graded counterpart minus grading costs, then it's worth it. And you're 100% right. Like I always say, like
Mhm.
for me, I always look for deals on raw books. That's why I buy them. I look for deals even on graded books. Like at this point in my collecting journey, we're going to get into this. I'm only looking for deals at this point. I'm really looking to pay up for anything. But all right, so that was my biggest gripe of the year was the price increase. And a lot of people they really came at me for what I said when I really had like a rant. I remember that the thumbnail was like CGC screws real collectors. People
Yeah,
didn't like that.
I remember that video. You were pretty fired up.
Yeah, people didn't like that. There were a lot of CGC defendists out there. I don't defend anything. I just state my opinion. So let's talk about cons. 2023. I know me and you personally spoke about some of the cons that you went to in your area.
Mhm.
What were they like? Which ones did you go to? Did you have a good experience?
Yeah, so I'm in the Seattle area for those that may not know, and so there were 3 up here this year. There's Emerald City Comic Con, which is like the big. I mean, it's by no means is it like New York Comic Con or it's, but but that would be our big one on that level. And then there was Summer Con, and then most recent one I went to is Grit City Con. Um, they are fun. The ones here I find are fun to go to just to be able to see what is out there, but to me, in terms of like what you see, it's rough, man. I mean, if you're a wall book buyer, if you're a wall book buyer, like, and you're buying wall books at these cons, like, I don't know what you just don't know what's going on out there, because I mean, I see prices that are 5x what I can find. Like, I mean,
That's insanity.
the Grit City Con I went to, I have a picture on my video when I was there, and it's me holding a Hulk 1. And it was actually the first time I've ever seen a Hulk 1 in person, and it was a 3.0, and the guy was very nice. He let me take a picture with it, and I was like, just curious, like, what's your price on this? And he was like $33,000, and I was like, okay, wow.
You do
And
you
I
remember
put
the
it back.
grade, or was it raw?
No, it's 3.0. It was the
It was
CGC
3.0.
3.0.
Alright. That's
Literally,
crazy.
literally the next day, like literally the next day, Elite had a 3.0 Hulk 1 for $15,000. And then I think it dropped to 14 too after that, because no one bought it at 15.
Do you
Like,
think that people that when you go to cons that these go I mean, I think a lot of them are old timers who kinda have the prices like that, but that's just my what I see in the area, but do you think that they do that on purpose, trying to, like, say to someone, "Let me kinda take your money because you don't know any better," or do you just think they just wanna have a high price book on the wall so people could see?
I think there's 2 things. I think there is one part is that kind of fishing aspect, right? Like, they put these big things on the wall to kind of attract people in and to go through their boxes and things like that. 2, and I think a lot the CGC reholder scam, which we'll talk about later, kind of like woke me up to kind of like I think us, especially with the comic book YouTube, comic book Instagram, are in a bit of a bubble, in the sense that like we think the entire community is there. And as you and I have said, like, the best place, in my opinion, to buy comic books is on Instagram. That's where the best prices are.
Mhm.
But like, when you really break it down, and I learned this you kind of realize this again with that recent scam, is even though the community is, somewhat large in this space, we're still just a fraction
Yeah.
of the actual comic book buying community. Like, eBay sells, by far and away the most comic books on a daily basis. And I think so many of them just don't have visibility into comic books as much as we do, being on Instagram in the community and seeing where prices are at. And so I do think a lot of people probably do go to cons and be like, oh, this is where I'm going to find my TOS 39. And they go and they see the TOS 39s, and then they pick the one that works for them and they go with it. Um, so yeah, I think it's kind of both of those kind of factors are involved.
Did you pick up anything, at any of those cons that you went to?
So at the Grid City Con where I got that Hulk one, as I've told you before, I've started just because I had all the most expensive ones. I'm not a run collector, but the Silver Surfer Silver Age run is only 18 issues, and I'm a big surfer guy. So I picked up 3 of just like the random keys in the and they were like $20 each. So I do think, I will say, in cons that I have gone to, the value would be in the boxes in terms of where you can find good deals. The previous one before that, I bought a Luke Cage #1, and then the one before that, I got a Fantastic Four annual #6. So I didn't buy a ton, because again, there was just not a ton
Yeah.
to pick up.
Alright, so before I get into my cons that I went to this year, I wanna say hello to a couple of people in the chat. We have, some comic book royalty right now in the chat, so I wanna acknowledge that as well. Dan says that, by the way, that was a YouTube, emoji that we didn't get to see. Comic Fan again says, "Hey, Lawrence, I love your content. Thank you so much, bro. Kingdom Comics, yo, what's up?" And like I was saying, Swags is in the house. Thank you for joining us, buddy. And we really appreciate all the work you've been doing for the community with the CGC Reholder Gate, and of course, all the other great content that you put out. And before I forget, the link to this StreamYard is in the description of this video. If you have a mic and a camera and you want to jump on and talk about 2023 and 2024, jump on. Everyone is welcome as long as you're respectful. I do not care. And I want to say, what's up, Chef? A lot of the sellers at these cons pay loads of money for a booth, so it makes sense for them to charge more on these wall books, blue chips, and spec books. So I'm going to address this when we get to a little bit later, but I understand what you're saying. However, having set up at a con this year as my first, and we're going to talk about it. Uh, I know it's a lot of money, but at the same time, you make more money giving deals than you do just leaving books up there not to get sold. So
Yeah, I mean, if it's a point of the books are so expensive that no one's going to buy them, then you're still not making your booth money
yeah,
back.
it makes me think that some of these books they don't want to sell, like a Hulk one. Maybe it's their personal book and they don't want to sell it, so they're like, I'll just throw it up for a ridiculous price, and maybe someone
Yeah.
won't buy it.
Yeah, and that's a viable method, right? Like the FU price. So like I can
Yeah,
understand that.
someone's willing to pay the FU price. Fine, I'll give it up.
Yeah.
All right. So my cons for this year, and I got to be honest, this year was probably the year that I went to the most actual bigger cons. Usually I will stick to some of the local shows in my area and hit up a few bigger cons. But this year, I'm trying to think. I think I went to King Con this year, which is always a great show in New Jersey. It's a lot of the Instagrammers, YouTubers, everyone from the Northeast. They get together and put on a show for just comic collectors, and the prices were pretty decent. There was a few things out there that I thought were maybe a little bit overpriced, but that's when the market was really starting to hit, bottom, and like prices were still falling, and people were kind of shy to like jump the gun a little bit. So King Con it's always a great show. I went to New York Comic Con, of course, this year. I recently went to Big Apple Con. I went to Terrificon. It was my first year going there this year, and I thought it was awesome. I took my wife. We went to Mohegan Sun. We gambled overnight. I was only got to stay there the one day, which sucked, but I got to hit a lot of the show floor. I picked up a book for my kid for Christmas there. So with regarding deals, Terrificon had the best deals by far
That's what I've
for the
heard.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I picked up a
I've
ton
heard
of
that. Like
books.
yeah, I heard that's like the con to go to for actual comic book collecting.
And they had a
Yeah.
lot of great signers there. Claremont was there this year. I know this year, upcoming year, they can have Jim Lee, and that's a
Mhm.
huge thing for him to be there, because I heard he only does like private signings. So for him to go to Terrificon and sign it's only gonna be the one day, I think, the Saturday, which is probably the day I'm gonna go. I may end up doing that, but that was to me the best con of the year. Of course, I went to New York Comic Con. I'm always going to go to that. I take my kid. We go. I went 2 days this year. One day with him, and the second day I went by myself. And I picked up. I didn't think New York Comic Con was that bad this year. The fluff sucked. All the other shit besides comic was garbage. Like, we had a ton of sellers that just sold nonsense. The freaking exclusive stuff, the variant stuff was out of control. The first day, you couldn't even move because the lines where the variants were like around booths, like down aisles, so you couldn't move. The second day was so much better because everybody who wanted that got theirs, and that was it. So I picked up a lot of Spideys at New York Comic Con to help me fill my run, which I'm now done with. So it was a good show, but I think next year maybe I'll only go on Saturday.
Mm.
And of course, I had a couple of little shows here and there throughout the year, but all in all, the con year for me was a pretty good experience. I know I'm forgetting one. I know I'm forgetting one that I went to that it was like a couple of ones I want to hit up this year is the Queen's Comic Party, and there's another one in Central New Jersey, which is a newer one. Don't remember the name, that I want to hit up this year because I also heard it was a good show. So that's it for the con season for me. But I didn't buy too much this year.
Yeah. You bought some big ones though.
Yeah, traded and bought, but yeah, after
Yeah.
that, like I just didn't buy much. So, all right. So again, let's catch up in the chat. See if anybody's got anything to say relating to con wise. Dan says, I think sellers at cons rationalize setting higher prices because A, cost to set up a booth, which we talked about. B, other sellers set higher prices. So in comparison, those higher prices are not as egregious. Yeah, I guess. But to me, if I'm going to set up at a con, I want to undercut whoever I'm going against, right? That's just the way I look at it. And then Chef says, New York Comic Con last year was foil and variants. It's all it fucking was, dude. If you got time
So
to dig through boxes, you did all right. But
let me ask you a question at New York Comic Con. Of all the things that are selling, what percentage would you say are actual like comic book dealers?
there's not a lot of dealers that went to New York Comic Con. Like, they have their own
Mhm.
little section. It's like 4 rows, but they only like have a section of the 4 rows. It doesn't go all the way back to the Jacob Janis. Javis is huge, so it doesn't go all the way back to the one wall. So they have like one squared off section of like 4 rows, and they're all back to back to back.
Mhm.
It's most of the dealers I've seen before. Like Barry Gary was there. Jam Comics was a big surprise. I met them first time this year at New York Comic Con. They had some awesome Spideys for me. Absolute Game, Jesus. Absolute Comics was there. My LCS Zap Comics was there. So I always see them. So I always know what they're bringing. A lot of booths I've seen before. Some of the ones I haven't seen before. Harley Yee was there this year. I've never seen him before. I know he's a bigger one from wherever he's from, but a couple other guys, Dale Roberts, Reese's was there, Metropolis was there. Most of these guys I've seen at the bigger shows, so I didn't really get many surprises this year. But
Let me
um,
ask you, when you see someone that you see at a lot of shows, like let's just say Very Gary, you see him at
yeah,
New York Comic Con, you see him at, would his be consistent from con to con, or does he change them based on what con he's at?
no, I think he changes it up, and he does a good job. His booth is always huge, and he always has something for everybody. That's the best thing I could say that he does. He's got higher end books. He's got lower level books. He's got dollar books. He has a very good variety of books that he brings to shows, which is great. He used to do live sales on YouTube, which I don't think he does anymore because I'm a whatnot. So I used to go on his YouTube shows and try to look for see what he has. But yeah, he does a good job. It really depends on what you're looking for. And this year, I wasn't looking for much. I was looking for deals. I did get the variant, the sneaker variant. So that was the only thing that I did get at New York Comic Con that wasn't ASM filler. So that was that. But it's a good time. New York Comic Con is a good time no matter what. And for the price for the ticket for $65 for a day of an entire day there for all you could have, it is pretty good deal. It sucks getting into the city. It sucks fucking parking is fucking always awful. But outside of that, it's a good time. It's not like I went
Yeah,
to
I
Big
mean,
Apple Con. It was not a fun time.
I know when you go to New York Comic Con, I watch your video. Like the two things I think, in regards to the comic books, that I would love to go for would be one. I mean, you could see Superman ones and Action ones and Tech 27s. Like I don't see those at the cons I'm at here, so I would love to see that. Actually, I did the one time Metropolis came out to one of the cons I went to, and then two, none of the cons here I have ever have original art. Not that I'm a big player in the original art game, but like to see a lot of that stuff would be awesome.
Yeah, I that's the best part of going to New York Comic Con for me is seeing stuff you don't see all the time. And not this past year, but the year before, I always bring this up at an ASM 55 cover by John Romita, the big Doc Ock head with the glasses. You see, dude, that was awesome to see in person. It really was. So that's why I go there. It's not really so much for the books, although I'll dig. It was more to see stuff that you'd never seen before.
Was it New York Comic Con the one last year when Todd McFarlane was the guy came up with the Batman 423 OA? Like that
Yes,
is
and he
crazy.
signed it. Yeah, it's stuff like
Yeah.
that. And when he was doing that, like I was like, me and my kid were like maybe 20 feet away, and I just snapped a quick pic. I didn't want to get in trouble, but yeah. So we have a guest, by the way, who's in the backstage. I'm just gonna bring him on now. There he is.
Hey, it's Dan. What is up,
gentlemen?
Yeah.
How are you?
What's going on,
I'm
man?
doing really good. Hey, Lawrence, I watch your content every time you pop that out. You guys are fantastic. I've learned so much from both of you. So just wanted
Thank
to
you
pop
so
in
much,
and say
man.
y'all are
Yeah.
awesome, and yeah, just really appreciate it.
Appreciate
Lawrence, I was
it.
gonna
Hang
tell
out with
you,
us for a bit.
I was gonna tell you,
Okay, a little bit.
in the con talk. So I know we're going to talk about upcoming cons, but now that Dan is here, I might as well say it now. So we are all planning to go to Terrificon this year, and Dan and I are actually rooming up together.
You are, go,
right.
dude. So we're finally gonna meet then in person because I'm gonna go as well.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
That
Right
is
on.
awesome.
Our plan is to be there. We come in, we'll be in then Friday and then leave Sunday. So yeah, we'll be there.
See, last year I went on Friday and left Saturday. So I'm going to try to either convince my wife to either let me stay the 2 days or maybe convince her to come with me for 2 days and she kind of do her own thing. We'll see.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's tough. I'm not sure, Lawrence, where you live, how far away you live, but it was tough for me to get over the hump of, again, rationalizing spending, $1,000 to stay and fly there because I'm so used to penny pinching in order to get these big keys I've always wanted. So I'm basically, trading a low grade giant size X-Men 1 to be there with these guys. But Rohan keeps instilling the idea that, experiences over comics, in the long run, you're going to look back and appreciate that.
So if, like I said, if you could, I agree with him in the fact that if you can get together with guys that you know and you're going to have a once in a lifetime experience, I totally get it. I totally get it. So I don't know, where are you from in the country?
I live in Portland, so me and Rohan are state neighbors, and we're probably only like a couple hour drive. But we've never met.
Yeah, we never met. Yeah.
Chatting.
Oh wow, so you guys are coming all the way over here. That's crazy.
Well,
man.
yeah. So we have this kind of like group thread with a few other of the YouTube guys, and they're all East Coast, and so we're going to go out to Terrificon this year, and then next year people are going to have to come west or something. We'll have to figure something out.
That's it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get them.
There you go. All right. So Dan, do you have anything to add about what we've talked about so far about the, the cons and the CGC raising prices, or else we'll get to the next one?
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, you guys touched it, but Lawrence, I agree with you after I said my point about, these dealers rationalizing hiking up the prices, and in comparison, they don't look so bad when everybody's jacking up the price. But you're right. When one guy goes in there and has everything listed at FMV, they're going to make a killing, right?
Exactly.
I would imagine their booth is going to be the busy one. So I don't
especially
really understand why.
Especially if they have a lot of great comics. If you're pricing stuff at fair market value and you have like books that people desire, you're going to fucking destroy everybody.
I mean,
I know that the group go ahead, Rohan.
We just see that when, we all follow different sellers on Instagram, and some sellers price bad, some sellers price great. And like the sellers that price great, like how fast do those books just get claimed on those Instagram posts? Like that, right? Because they price well, they price to move. And, that I imagine the same thing would happen at a con.
I also think that people some of these dealers probably bought the higher prices, and maybe they can't go and sell stuff at FMB right now. But that's also, I don't know. I can't say that 100%.
Yeah, that would feel like that's more of like a mental hurdle to get over, because if you're looking at it just on paper, you should just realize that, hey, you got to cut your losses somewhere, right? But I do hear that as a rationale to hold on to those higher prices. And I also wonder, because I'm not tightly knit in like this selling community, like especially at a con, is there some sort of like strong arming happening in the background where they're like, dude, you better not set that price on that big book because we're all selling them at this price? Is there some sort of politics happening there?
I'm not a dealer. I would love to get a dealer's answer to that question. I don't know. I hope not, because I do see dealers out there who are very fairly priced. They might be a little bit over, but that also might be a tactic where they're a little over FMV, and then they'll work your deal to get under or at. So that's a tactic which I don't mind either. It's when you see shit that's like Rohan said, that's like the FU price, that's the issue.
Yeah, and the fact that every book on the wall is at the FU price, like it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. All right. So one comment before we move on. Swagglehouse says, for hangout purposes, SDCC is definitely worth the trip. He recommends it. Just don't expect to buy any comics. So that's what I heard. Even though I heard a lot of people saying this shit, that there was a lot of people buying comics because there was none of the
movie
Marvel wasn't there. Yeah, nobody was there. So
I being a West Coaster, I want to go to SDCC in a year. I've never been able to get tickets. Like, you go on to the thing when tickets go live, you get put in this like online queue, and both times I've done it, the queue's been for when I got on right away was an hour and a half, and then when I waited the hour and a half, when I got to the line, it was like, sorry, the tickets are all sold out now. I'm like,
sold out. Yeah,
like
that's how New York used to be, and then past couple of years, there's tickets left over after the time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right,
so yeah, Swag,
next,
if you got a way to buy tickets, let us know.
Yeah, I'm sure he gets his tickets for free, right, bud? Answer that one in the comments. But all right, so next topic, which is the big one for me this year, because I've been talking about this thing for a couple of years, that if they did this, that it was a game changer, and I still believe it, is CBCS's new labels. That was a big thing this year. The first time we saw it is when I think I broke the news personally at New York Comic Con when I saw the first thing. The first book that had Marvel Comics #1 that had that label. I'm like, what the hell is this? That was a big thing, and people are gonna hate on some of the labels. They're gonna always back CGC, but with everything that's gone over the past couple of years of CDC, and now this year, of course, with the reholder gate, how sexy does CBCS look? Can they capitalize? And do you think now it's a game changer, or you still think it makes no difference? I'll let one of you guys start first.
I'll start. So I do think the label looks magnitudes better than the previous label. However, I personally still think CGC's label looks better. And for me, it's all about, again, both companies are expensive to grade with. At the moment, at least, and again, I don't grade enough books, so I'm not the one that's going to change this, but until I can see like a value prop that is comparable to CGC. I just don't know why I would not use CGC. And it goes the whole spectrum. Like you can see, I've seen posts on Instagram that'll be like this book, and it's a newer book, so it'd be $100. And then it'll be like, I also have for a CGC 9.8. And then they'll be like, I have a CBCS 9.8 for $90, right? So you see it on that low end. And then you see it at the extreme end, and you'll see the UF4 DeJerkin variant, right? That went for $40K. And that same auction, the CBCS one went for $8 or $9 grand less.
So but they're not the new labels, right?
No. This was all before. That's why I said, so I would take, even though the new label's there, until I see that value gap shrink, if I was to grade, I would stick with CGC.
And that is literally the only argument I hear from everybody who still agrees that they should stick with CGC. They say, hey, I love CBCS. My hands are tied though, because I got to make that money. And there's that gap.
You don't want to leave anything on the table.
And I think that most of us collectors can see that there's still value in the CBCS cases. And we all say, oh, I don't mind, but because that price gap, I got to go CGC.
Okay.
And I wonder, we're just telling ourselves the same story. I think there's a familiarity with CGC. I think a lot of like really newcomers to the comic game to also recognize CGC as that's the graded. You just call it CGC graded this, even if you're talking about CBCS, because it's synonymous with the grading companies, right? Go ahead.
Couple things I want to bring up is that all of a sudden I'm seeing these massive books coming out in CBCS new labels. I saw Captain America 1. I saw another Captain America. We saw a bunch of Batman ones. It was at 4.5, and there was another one. We saw that Marvel Comics one, and all these bigger keys now I'm seeing in these new CBCS labels. I don't know if CBCS is kind of saying, hey, come grade us here, we'll do something for you. I have no information about that, but all of a sudden I'm starting to see these bigger books show up in these new CBCS labels. So I'm wondering to myself, is it happening? Are we starting to see some influx of at least these bigger books going over to CBCS?
My personal guess on that is I think that's probably a marketing push by them. I'm probably imagining they're offering some graded because again, if you're grading a Batman 1 and we're talking 4% of the value, we're talking a couple grand here to grade that book. And so if CBCS is going to come to someone and say like, hey, we're going to cut you a deal because we want to get these books out with our label on them, like I could totally see that being a thing.
They're going to want to post that on their Instagram and advertise.
Because if people are trusting them with Batman 1, they're going to trust them with ASM 361. Right.
So before I get into the obvious question here, I want to say to CBCS, if you're watching my channel right now, I have two big books that are CBCS that I want to have recased in a new label, but I have a Superman 1 that is a repro cover, but it's a Superman 1. It's restored CGC. It's an NG. I am willing to send it to you to have it crossover graded if you guys are willing to do a deal on me. So there you go. You can contact me in the description of this video or on my Instagram, mightycomics_collectible. So yes, I can be had. I am a hooker. So there you go.
Yeah. I would absolutely do the same thing. Now, Lawrence, do you not want to reholder your Batman 1 and Tech 31?
Well, no, I do want to reholder them to get the new label. I do, but the shipping to get them back to me is insanity because of the insurance, because of the what they're worth. So if I could find like them at a show, like when they go to, if they're there at New York Comic Con next year, I may do it there and just drop it off. Yeah. So that makes more sense, because other than that, it's like $2,000 to send them, and I don't want to pay that. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But my big question to you guys, go ahead, finish.
I was just gonna say, like, I've always thought, like, if I was ever to have a book of that like caliber, I would probably just like make a trip of it and like fly down, fly down with it. Yeah. And that way it's on me. And then I do, the walkthrough they go fast with those. So then be there when you drop it off, and then be there when you pick it up, and then fly back with it.
Yeah, but it was still costing me the same amount of money.
Totally.
Yeah, my mind would be at ease. You're right. Yeah, my mind would be at total ease, but it would still cost me the same amount of money.
It's an expensive endeavor for sure.
Yeah. If I was going like vacation to Texas, I would say, all right, I'll do that. So my inevitable question is, I don't want to go into this too much because we are going to talk about it at the end of 2023, is with everything going on with reholder gate at CGC, does CBCS take any market share, even if it's just temporarily because of how slow things are going to be at CGC, how, stuff like that, because everything going back and forth, maybe people are scared to send their books in a little bit. I don't know. What are your opinion?
So, and this is not by originally my thought, but like one of the guys that put out videos on this holder gate is Neo of Neo Comics and Cards.
Yeah.
And Neo is a big card guy. And so with cards, you have a number of graders. One of them is Beckett. Beckett is who owns CBCS.
CBCS, yep.
And when you hear these stories of the card guys talking about like how big of a disaster Beckett is on the card side, it just kind of lends you to believe like they don't have their act together well enough to like capitalize on this. So hearing all those stuff that I hear from the card side about Beckett, like it makes me think that I don't think CBCS is going to capitalize. That's my personal opinion.
Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I think they've had plenty of opportunities and they're fine. It's just that the only real impact that I can imagine this would have is that those most affected books, the ASM 300s, 129s, Hulk 340 or whatever, Hulk 181, those ones at 9.8 are probably going to be a little more harder to sell. And I think a lot of buyers that are looking for those are salivating to try to get a discount on those specific books. And that's, I think really
I will say I saw one Instagram post that I was like, oh, there's our first shot fired. And then I don't think I've seen anything else since then.
That was me. I don't know if anybody said it or if anybody saw it, but when CBCS, they made some kind of post and I wrote shots fired. That was my comment.
Yeah.
I'm like, shots fired, because it was like a almost not a dig, but they were promoting their services against CGC when they just messed up something else.
Talking about their security.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah. So that was me. I wrote shots fired.
I thought this was going to be a whole campaign. Like tomorrow there's going to be something like, and they were just going to hammer it, but then I haven't seen anything else.
And they have done a better job of promoting their product. I will say that. I'm starting to see shit all over the place from them.
Yeah, it is getting better.
That's a step in the right direction. And I think that's all you can ask. But, I don't care either way. But
yeah, I was going to say, Robert here in the chat has a good point. I've always thought this. If DC or CBCS could get DC labels, I think that would be a big move for them.
I agree. I don't know why they haven't done it, but let me just catch up on chat since you mentioned it. So Swag says to you, Rohan, for hangout purposes, SDCC is definitely worth the trip. I've recommend. Oh, wait, no, we got to that one already. I apologize. He said, Rohan, apply for a press badge with your YouTube channel. You have 2 weeks left to apply for a press badge. So
I don't know if I have enough subs to do that.
Why? I tried to do it for New York Comic Con. They told me you had to be like at a certain level. I'm like, oh, okay. Robert Davis just says hello. Chad says, I bet CBCS has the same thing happen with the CGC cases, maybe even more so. Until we have proof, you can't say that. We have no proof as of yet. Kenneth Bird says hello. Danny says the book's big as still selling less on CBS than CGC and auction. I get it. And Robert says FWIW. I don't know what the hell that means. You know what it means?
For what it's worth.
For what it's worth. There you go. If CBCS can get DC custom labels, I'm all in. That being said, they're also going to be here at a local show, and I plan to drop off some books, so I just don't have to ship them. All right.
Good call.
There we go.
That saves you on shipping, right? When you just drop
you just drop it off.
You don't have to pay for shipping. That's killer.
You
but you do have to pay for
shipping
return shipping. Got it.
Yeah. All right. So one thing I want to mention, we'll move away from CBCS, even though I'm gonna do something this year with them 100%. And I'm also gonna do something with CGC as well. But I set up at my first con this year, like as a dealer, even though I'm not a dealer, just to kind of liquidate some of my collection to get some cash back after I made some bigger trades. And I had a really good time. So I want to announce to you guys right now that I'm going to be at King Con sometime in April with Silver Age Spidey Classics, who's, if you haven't checked him out, he's on Instagram. Always selling great, affordable Spidey books and other books. So we're gonna have a booth together at King Con. So if you're in the area in the Northeast, I want you to say, come on down, hang out with us for the day. I think it's a 1-day show this year. So that is the announcement for that I wanted to tell you guys before I forgot. So
cool. Congrats. So there you go. That's a big one.
Good time.
Lawrence, can I ask, with knowing how you've consolidated down your collection this past year, like do you have
I don't have much. I barely have anything to sell, but I do have like a short box and like a few other bigger books. Like I have a a couple of other like raw, like bigger books that I will sell that I'll bring with me. So I don't have much. That's why we're sharing a booth. But I'm gonna go anyway to the show to hang out. So I'm like, he'll watch the booth. I'll watch the booth while he moves around. So we'll just go and have a good time. It's like
Nice.
100-something bucks. Totally worth it. So that's what I said to you before. Like everybody's saying in the chat, like the cost to set up a booth. I set up at the Garden State Comic Fest this year, and it was expensive. It was $500 for a 6-foot table, which is insane. But if you go to a show like King Khan, it's a couple $100 for the same amount of room. So I know some of these booths that these guys set up, they're like thousands of dollars. But to me, the amount of books that they have and the amount of books that I have, from what I showed at that show, I made a ton of money. From what they sell at a show, I could imagine they're going to make 10 times what I make. So people who bring up what it costs to do a show, I think they do all right.
Yeah, if you're moving books, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's just another notch of excuses, to set those prices. There's probably a lot of prep work that goes into that, huh, Lawrence? It was my books and everything.
The biggest thing for me this was making a wall, like to make the actual wall to hold the books. I did so much research
with a drill and 2x4s.
Yeah, I had to do it all myself. So I like just researching it and putting it together. I'm like, shit, I screwed up a couple boards. I had to go buy a couple more boards. So like it was an experience, and I still have it. So I will need it for that. But other than that, it was a blast. I got to be honest. I had such a good freaking time when it was a 2-day show, and I would gladly do it again if I had books to sell, but I don't have that much to sell anymore.
Lawrence, what's the situation like? So what was the con again that you set up at?
It's the Garden State Comic Fest here in New Jersey.
Okay, in Jersey. So, because like I've heard these stories of like, because if you go to New York Comic Con, it's just like, where are you parking in New York? And then the process of getting your books from your van set up on your wall, like I feel like that's a sketchy proposition sometimes, depending on the situation.
Go watch like Very Gary. He did one a couple years ago of the load-in of him going to NYC. He just filmed the entire thing. Yeah, it was insane. It was like I could never do that. Like a big show like that, I could never do. But like a smaller show, literally, I packed everything in my car. I had a buddy. He split the booth with me. He came, packed his car. We met there. We loaded everything in with like a half hour. All done. It was nice and easy.
Yeah, because we had.
I think I know what you're talking about, Rohan. I was at the Frankenstein comic swap in October here in Portland, and it's just at like a mall, like an H&M store. And when the guys are shutting it down, they're bringing out dollies of all of their expensive comics. Just one guy with a dolly, hands full. Like if some shady guy came up on him in the parking lot, it's
we had Vincent from Metropolis on our show, and he told the story that at one of his earliest cons, when he first started really getting into big time dealing, and I think it was in New York actually, that it was just him, and he had to go get his van or something, and he asked the guy in the booth next to him hey, can you watch my stuff? Yeah, whatever. And then he came back, and someone had taken his short boxes of stuff. He lost like thousands of dollars in that. So it does definitely happen. That proposition. I mean, he told the story. I mean, the story's in more detail on the show, but like, I can't imagine that process. So
that's why you always got to have, I always say you got to have a partner. To do all that shit yourself is tough. I had a partner when I did it, and I have one again in April. So to do it all by yourself is definitely risky.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's get to meat and potatoes of 2023. Buying comics. What did you guys get this year? What was your biggest get? What was something, even if it wasn't like dollar amount big, like what was just, wow, like I got this shit this year. I'm so happy. So who wants to let it go first?
Yeah, I could start. So I had I brought my 3 big purchases of the big acquisitions of the year.
He came prepared.
The first one was my Hulk 181. Finally got one of these. And then I got one of your favorite books, Lawrence, ASM 129. And then Daredevil 1.
Oh, Daredevil. That's right. I forgot you got that.
Yeah. These are my three big biggets of the year.
3 big ones. Did you get anything that wasn't big that was like, oh man, that was such a good deal, like your best deal of 2023, even if it was one of those?
Oh yeah, my best deal. I've told a lot of people this. I found a Tomb of Dracula 10.
I remember you telling me that.
So cool.
For $40, yeah, and it was just because it was coverless, and that store owner that I used to go to.
It was just detached, wasn't it? Was it coverless?
It was detached. It was detached.
Oh, sorry, yeah, detached, yeah. And so it looks in a bag. It looks awesome. So I took that all day.
Dude, that's what made me get like back into collecting. I would go to like these local shows and I'd find ridiculous deals on books. That's what made me like, oh, I can't believe I got this. Like that's what made it fun. Like now, although it's still fun, it's a little bit less fun because you don't find many deals anymore. At least I'm not finding it. What about you, Dan? What were some of your best and the biggest deal you had?
I'm not as prepared, but my biggest find was probably my only comic collection I ever bought, and it had the book that was on my list for the year. Giant Size X-Men was in that. I got that it's in like January, so it was so my goal was complete. However, after doing a little extra looking at it, I believe the cover's reglossed, so
Wow.
that hurt. I probably paid like I paid $1,800 for the collection. It was like 2 short boxes, a lot of John Byrne, Dave Cockrum X-Men. So I broke even, let's say, on it.
Yeah.
But that was like the most emotionally exciting thing, and I got a lot of experience that way. And then I'd say like the best deal that I got was I found a lot that was sold, and got it was the 266 Mark Jewelers, but it was a surprise that it was a Mark Jewelers in there. They had there was maybe like 10 Mark Jewelers in the lot out of a 25 comic lot and around that. And it was $70. So that was like, the biggest come up.
Nice.
And at first appearances of Mark Jewelers, like that's a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't collect them, so like maybe eventually. I mean, it's in my personal collection box, but maybe I'll eventually move it because I do have another copy of that, and I know that it's valuable right now. But I always have stuck within like the amount that I'm comfortable spending. Right, like $100 books all day. I'll keep buying those easily. I really have a trouble pulling the trigger on $300 books and up. But those are the ones that I want the most, so I'll have $400, $500, and then I'll just be buying like 3 different $100 books or, lots. And
it's tough. That is the toughest thing to do, especially Rohan, because like, I know what you're after, and we'll talk about that when we get to 2024 stuff, but it's tough when you see a book that you want, but you're saving for the bigger book that you want. It's tough not to pull the trigger on that $100 book or that lesser book that you wanted, but you want that bigger one more.
Right. You're seeing
that's
those
the toughest thing
deals
to get
along the way. And you think, hey, I can just, sell this for, whatever, but that's a lot of work to go into that.
It is.
And I think too, one of the tough things about it, like, especially when you're into this thing, is that it's fun to have comics show up, right? It's fun to get.
It is.
And if you're saving, if you're not someone that has a lot of money to just go and throw at some of these big books, like, to get there, you may take several months of not, and that can be very hard. It can be very hard if you're into it,
buying comics and collecting in general is an addiction. I hate to say it, but it is.
No, for sure.
You're constantly buying stuff. You're constantly on Instagram looking for deals. You're constantly going through stuff. But what goes through my mind now in 2023, especially towards the middle and on, and we'll talk about why in a second, but I start thinking, do I need to spend the money on that? Do I need to spend the money on that when I have this? Do I want to spend the money on more comics? It's like, maybe I don't. So as you guys know, my biggest things this year were actually trading 13 books for a Batman #1, 13 big Silver Age keys that I acquired, over the past 6 years, and some cash to get that book. But also I traded another auction pickup that I won of a Batman 1 that was a green label because it had a massive amount of tape and something else. I forgot what it was. And I traded that for Detective Comics #31. So those were my big gets. The best deal, in my opinion, that I got all year was that Tech 31 because that book is a ghost. I think we've seen a lot. Like right now, there's one in Heritage that's a 4.0 restored. That I have a 5.0 restored. I want to see where it goes and where it hits. So that one to me was the biggest deal because I had mentioned everyone under the sun who had a copy of that book asking if they were willing to sell it, and I got 0 responses. Like there's like 91 on the census, and I must have sent out 50 messages, and I didn't get one like, okay, maybe if you meet me at this price. No, I got either a denial or I got like silence. So when I got that book, I was like, holy crap. I'm insanities for me. So that was my get of the year. But I actually got two people backstage that I don't know who they are, but I'm going to tell you both, whoever's backstage, you got to have a camera. I won't let you on without a camera. Just keep that in your head. So if you have a camera, I will let you come on. But we're going to keep
about to get flashed. Yeah.
Lawrence, real quick, I want to ask though, with the trade of the 13 Silver Age books, I asked you this when you did it. I'm asking you now, after it's been several months. Is there any inkling to want to go and get any of those back?
You know what? That's a part of 2024 that when we get to that discussion, we're almost there. Is one other topic I want to talk about before we get to 2024 that I want to address there. So let's just jump right into it. And the last part of 2023 that everybody's been talking about is the reholder scam that's going on right now. What was your first impressions, both of you guys, when you heard about it? Did you think, anything that forget all the information that we have now, but when you first heard about it, what was running through your mind?
Here we go again.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
There's
I was going to say why
steady drumbeat pace of some drama going on with a community member, with CGC. We always find something, like somebody's exclusive. Like there's always somebody to pick on, and something going on. So it was I just grabbed my popcorn and enjoyed the show. I mean, it's so fun to watch you YouTubers cover that kind of stuff. So of course, don't want anybody to fail. Don't want any businesses to go down or anything. I want everything to be good for us collectors. But it's just been a source of entertainment, basically. That's where I'm coming from.
What about you, Ron?
So my first thought, so when Manu, who posted it, 9.9 newsstand, my first thought was just like, how is this even possible? Right. And then when we kind of like unraveled that ball of yarn, it just kind of really opened up the rabbit hole of like again, CGC just announced that there are 350 books that are on this list, right? I imagine
at least
list is
for right now. Yeah. For 350 right now.
Grow. And this is obviously one dealer that figured this out. Like there could be others. And so one of the things I think about when I've talked about this with a few people, and I've had a few people that have been like, I don't really I don't care because, I don't buy books that high a grade, or I don't buy Mark George, whatever. And I was like, I personally think like if you own a single book that is CGC slabbed, you should have some level of care, because if the trust is lost, whether it be from the high end, like trust is trust. And if it goes away, wherever it is, even if it's not what you collect, that slab book you have is impacted by that. And so we all are, unless you're cracking every book you have and it's only raw, like it impacts us all. So like, it's a big deal. And we have a friend that we made through the show that's been on just on the Instagram, that he has 2 books and he's dealing with it. And it just like sucks to see him upset about it and what he's having to do about it. Like we all probably know someone that is affected.
You don't have to release the name, but were they high dollar value books, like crazy?
Yeah, it was a Hulk 181. So I think the Hulk 181s that were on that list were 8.5 and up, and then the other one was a ASM 194.
And there was they said there were 59 copies of that book, which is, I don't know how that doesn't raise a flag in CGCs. Yeah. Somebody sends in 59 copies of ASM 194, and they're all 9.8s. That's insane.
Yeah.
So for me, when this first happened, I let out a video and I was just speculating because we didn't know what was going on at that point. But now that we know how they did it for the most part, what happened, we all know the 350 that are out there is probably this guy's account and this guy's account only. The guy was selling on eBay for 12 years. 12 years. So who knows if there's more than that? Who knows if he told somebody how to do it? Who knows if other people out there have also gone ahead and done this and they don't know? We don't know what's going on. So it is a big deal. Is there anything that you guys could think that CGC could do to prevent this in the future? And do you think they will?
I thought the response so far has been good. However, I would put, and we talked about green earlier, I would not send a single book to CGC at this moment until they show what their corrective action is to prevent this from happening again. That's kind of that's the big thing. Like, it's great that they said they're going to compensate. How are you going to compensate? It's great that they said that they're going to look at, change management to prevent this, but like, they need to be transparent with whatever is changing to regain trust that has been lost, in my opinion.
Rohan, do you think that that is you saying that you're voting with your dollars, or are you saying that because that you legitimately want to feel more secure about the books that you're sending?
Both. One of the things that has always frustrated me with CGC, and they can do this because they have a monopoly. Obviously, it's not like a true monopoly, whereas like there are competitors, but like because of how the market is, CGC is the dominant force. And it allows them to just do things without explanation. And I'll just give you a simple example, right? When you send a book into grading, if you don't know someone that can press your book or whatever, you can use CCS to press their book. CGC will not release what their method is of how they press books, right? They just, for all you know, they could just put it in a press for 20 minutes and then onto the line it goes.
That is
right?
what they do.
And that's probably what they do for the amount of books they go, right? And so it's just like,
for sure,
these types of things, they're allowed to just kind of just like breeze past because they are the dominant force, right? So now I think it is on us. Like, CGC is still the number one, but like, now you gotta return the, like, yes, we need to vote with our dollars, I think, for them to open the books up and be like, okay, we need to be more transparent with what's going on. This is how we do things. This is what the process looks like. And, beyond this reholdering, because it seems like it's kind of narrowed to like reholders within the custom label. Like, if I'm CGC, I'm saying, hey, we're going to do a whole marketing campaign where we're going to walk through the process of every single process we have. If we're doing a walkthrough, you can look at a YouTube video on what the walkthrough process looks like. If you're doing signature series, here's a video that walks you through the signature series. Like, everything should be open book.
That's a great idea. My next question I'm going to ask you guys: is there anything that you could think that would prevent this from happening? At least on the reholder side.
Yeah, I like that idea of they got to have some kind of certain number. However they do that, whether it be some kind of late embossing so it doesn't like take away from the book, of the inner well and the outer well, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll do, if they do that, will there be someone that figures out how to remove the book from the inner well and reseal it? Probably. Right? Because wherever there's money to be made, there's going to be someone there trying to scam the system. Mm-hmm. But that's why you always have to evolve and you always have to improve your processes. You can't just sit there and be like, this is it, we figured it out, and now we're going to coast. Like, no, you've got, and like, when companies do that, that's when companies go out of business.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? What do you think about, anything they could do?
I mean, I think that is it. That they're. I think that I agree that the inner well having the same code on it. That's a great idea. Of course, scanning all the books as they come in, like they're doing now, and I mean that's what we can do right now to get ahead of it, or ahead of this specific scam. And then you're right, always evolving. And I think that their statement recently is a chance for them to gain ground again, because they're showing that, hey, right now we're being active in fixing this issue. So I think that they're doing what they need to do.
I think West Coast Dave also had a good idea in terms of like the adding cameras everywhere. Like, you could think like when you look up a book on the census, right, and you look up the verification number, it gives you the photo of the finished product. Like, maybe they can add to it. Like, they add a photo of the book when it comes in. So, I mean, so like when you submit a book to CGC, right, it gives you the stages of where it's at in grading. There should be a photo involved with every stage. So that way, like, because I mean, who here hasn't had a book? I haven't, but we always hear about people that CGC damaged my book or something. So
I don't think that's ever going to happen. It puts too much liability in their hands. I don't think they'll ever do that.
Exactly. And same thing with liability. I also kind of disagree with the idea of them, or rather, they will never be transparent with us, because if any company was super transparent with us, we're going to see how amateur it really looks. And I mean, they're just guys like us running, like grading these things with their hands. Of course, like that's how I grade them. But like, you know, and then they're putting them in a pile and then they're slipping them into plastic. And it's like, there's no, I think we imagine some sort of immaculacy of, you know, a germ-proof room and all this stuff. They're just in a warehouse, you know, and there's different departments that don't communicate with each other. That's just the way it works.
So I think them putting a process out of each stage is a great idea. Maybe on YouTube, say, hey, this is how we do this part. This is how we do this part. I think that's great. So at least people know the process. But what do you think about this? I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, people are talking about putting cert numbers on the inner well. There's a QR code now on the back of every slab. On the label, but what about putting a matching QR code inside the inner well of the book? So if before you actually slide the book in, they have the matching QR code that they slide towards the bottom of the inner well as like a sticker or something, so it's flat against there, it's there, and then they could slide the book in. So the book, the inner well, they could scan it. Do they match? Yes. You also have a picture of the book to say, is it the same book or not? And they have at least like a 3-step process at that point to say, all right, this matches, and the look of the book matches as well.
Yeah.
Would that be suffice or no?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is getting that inner well to match.
Oh,
sorry, Rohan. You were cutting.
Maybe we should be sorry. I think the other thing too we need to be talking about more is, did you guys watch the video again with Neo and Swag when Swag went into the guarantee of CGC and you actually read what the guarantee is? Like,
there is no guarantee.
Exactly. Like, do we need to show them, hey, we if we're gonna use you, you got to beef up this guarantee. Like, there's got to be more than that.
I agree, but again, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. They're the number one people until market share shifts or they lose enough money. There is no reality for them to be able to say, you know what, we have to change this. They have to do something now because there's fraud present, and they have to come out and do something. That's why they're doing what they're doing, and they've done a good job with coming out and saying, you know, this is what's effective. We're going to rectify it. How they rectify it, I'm not too sure. They're saying that they're going to, you know, compensate, you know, the people who did this. It says acceptable compensation. So it doesn't say, oh, we're going to pay you the full out of the difference. It doesn't say that. It says they're going to give you acceptable compensation. So we're going to see when people start getting book backs, how they're affected and what they're getting back. That's the next step. When people get these books back and they're not the same grades, what is CGC actually going to do? And someone's going to come forward if they get screwed. You know they're gonna, right? They're going to say, yeah, they sent in my Hulk 181. It was an 8.0 blue label. Now it's a fucking 8.0 green label because it was missing a value stamp. And CGC only gave me this amount of money when I'm out this amount of money, you know?
And I imagine... I imagine it'll be like car insurance too, right? Like, you may buy a car for $20,000. When your insurance reimburses you, it reimburses you the value of the car. Then, if you bought a book, some of these books are from years ago when prices are way higher than they are now.
Well, look at ASM 300, and a 9.8 at one point was almost $9,000. Now it's like $3,300. So I mean,
exactly, yeah. So like, when they say they're going to fairly compensate you, I imagine it's going to be today's prices, even though you paid boom prices, which sucks.
I think my understanding of how they'll handle those compensations is that they'll contact you and say, would you rather us buy you another 9.8? And here's the listing. We will buy this one for you, or we can give you your slab back and give you whatever cash or credit for the difference in value.
Nobody's taking if anybody takes credit, they're a fool. I'm going to tell you right now. Don't take no credit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's credit or... I think they would give you cash, is my guess.
You heard that's what they're doing?
I mean, I'm just basing it off of what I saw on a YouTube channel, and somebody's book was damaged. And they have
and the book is damaged.
And they got a damaged book, called them, proved that it was damaged at CGC, and they said, we'll either buy you, you know, what it was supposed to be.
I know who you're talking about, I think. Yes. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yes, so, you got it.
Yes, yeah. him who shall not be named.
Yes,
on here on the channel. But yes, I know. I know.
Back.
But if I believe the story of how he did it was that he had a newsstand and they gave him a direct edition. If the guy I'm thinking about, so they kind of screwed him there. But I hope that's not.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not what I'm thinking of. It was the same comic, but it was crushed within the inner well. Or something.
Yes.
like at
But
the
I
bottom.
thought he had I think the guy I thought had a newsstand and they gave him a direct edition. So I don't know. But
They
it's
compensated him with a direct edition.
with a direct edition, yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's my thing. Like, so he did lose out on that money wise.
I
But
see.
if it's about the book, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the next step in the game. What is CGC actually going to do? Like, you already can see if you go look at the list, like people already started turning books in. Like there's an ASM one that already got turned in, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, they'll compensate them as little as possible without people complaining.
No
So
doubt,
they're still
no
going to, you're better off if you bought this book on eBay, you're better off going through eBay to try to get your money back. Cause I heard somebody already got their money back that
Yeah,
eBay
Manu posted
got,
that.
yeah. So you're better off if you got it from eBay, try to get your money back that way first and then go from there. But,
I understand that you could, yes, eBay 30 days or whatever, right? But after that, hopefully you paid with a credit card. If you can prove credit card fraud.
eBay has opened up. That's what Manu posted. eBay has opened up that if it's beyond that, they'll still, because of this situation. So
got you. Cool.
But
cool.
I do think, and I don't remember, someone posted it today that, you know, a lot of us don't buy books on eBay. Like we buy through Grails, and Grails had books that were affected. Like we need to hear from them.
I also heard, and I don't know if this is true, but that this guy was buying books and selling on other of them besides Grails. So that's another issue as well. I don't know what's going to happen there or what could even happen. But all right. So listen, it's been an hour already, and I know you guys can't stay all night. So we're going to segue into 2024 because 2023 is over. I know the CGC thing is going to keep going into this year, and we're going to find out more information, but I think it's been talked to death. We just wanted to get our opinions on it. Before we get into 2024, I just want to say hello to everyone else who's joined who I haven't acknowledged. Robert Davis, Mark Lapunla, Highland Roller, Minnie Whitlock. What's going on, brother? Izzy, what's going on, my friend? Phil Aang, I wish I will smash you. Awesome. Steampunk Starasin, what is up? There's some great new names in this chat. I love you guys. So Chad W, what's going on, brother? So I think that's it from all I recognize. I just want to acknowledge them over here. So 2024, we talked about cons. What are you guys any cons you're going to be attending this year? Obviously, we talked about Terrificon. I hope you guys really do make it down because I'd love to meet you guys in person. But anything else?
Yeah, well, we've already booked the room, so it's happening.
Yeah, deposits in, baby.
Yeah.
Let me know what room at some point so I can. Oh, you don't know it yet. When you get there, let me know. I'll see if I can get a room on joining.
Yeah. When it gets closer, we'll definitely.
We're staying with like 4 dudes in one room, so it's I'm not gonna be hanging out there too often.
Yeah.
And then for me, it'll be I'll do the local ones that I did this year again because like it's just fun. I find it fun even if I'm not gonna buy anything. It's fun for me to go because I think the comic shops in Seattle suck, and so to go and see everything, like I'll pay the con ticket price to go wander around and stare at the books for a day. Like that's totally fine. So I'll do the same 3 that I mentioned earlier: Emerald City Summer Con and Grit City Con. And then Terrificon.
All right, cool. How about you, Dan? Anything you have planned?
Terrificon's the big one. That's kind of like the goal. Just raise the money to go to that, and then Frankenstein Comic Swap. They kind of do that 2 or 3 times a year here in Portland. That's where you're going to get the actual good prices on comics in person, and I'll actually be sharing a booth there with another guy on Instagram, QWERTY Comics, Sean. There, we're going to share a table. That booth was $50 for a table there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that'll be my first show. I don't have a wall like you, Lawrence, but
doesn't matter, man. Just goal is to sell books.
Yeah. Like,
so you can buy books. So you could sell books to buy books.
I'm probably going to be spending more, walking around than I sell, but we'll see. And then it'll be a good experience. And then probably Rose City Comic Con. I went with my daughter for the first year last year, and she had a blast. So probably just go for one day this year. That's probably, all right. Cool. That's probably it. And whatever kind of shops around town have deals here and there, I'll stop by. But
do you guys have LCSs that are close to you?
Mm-hmm.
So
we got a bunch.
As I was just saying, the one I had that I loved, he just retired, and so he retired. So that shop is closed. There are a couple other shops around, and they literally have the con prices that we were talking about there, and it's no good. Like it annoys me.
That's a one
Wait,
lucky
but
thing.
isn't
Like,
that where you got your book though?
No, that's the one. The one that I got,
That's
the
the one that
10. That's the one that closed.
Ah, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have a good LCS by me. It's like a half
Dude,
hour away,
Zap
but
is the
I'm there all the
bomb.
time. They have such a
Oh, I
presence.
still want to go there. Yeah.
Even online. I don't know if you guys know who Longbox Love Affair is. He's on Instagram.
Yeah.
He also is on YouTube, but I don't know if his wife or his girlfriend lived in my area. So like he's always there. I'm dying to like meet him over there because I enjoy his content. I'd love to meet him, but he goes there. So many guys like just buy from them and they ship it off to them who live on the other side of the country. They're spectacular. I'm lucky to have them.
Yeah. The two big ones I like online are because Zap and STL Comics in St. Louis, they're always posting great deals, and I'm like, man,
I hear Alex, the comic
Corner
talk about.
That's how I do it. I've bought a number of books from STL Comics now.
Yeah, me and Rohan tried to claim off of them, and they were like, "You can't claim."
This week they posted a bunch of books like, but we're not taking claims. You have to come into the store this week. It's like, oh,
how much are plane tickets?
Exactly right. All right, so here's the big question. What are you guys after this year? It's 2024. I'm going to pose a question to everyone out there in the chat right now, or if you're watching this on the rewind. What are you after in 2024, comic book or collectible wise? You know, we're not just comics here. We talk about toys. We talk about cards. I know, Rohan, you're a big card guy. So what are you after in 2024? What's your main thing that you're looking for?
Dan, do you want to start this one or you want me to?
You go ahead.
So a lot of you that know me know that I wanted to finish out 2023 with an X-Men 1. That didn't happen, but for a good reason. As we were talking about earlier, life experience is more important. So I took a lot of money.
I see it there.
My Huskies are in the national championship game, and I am flying to the game on Sunday. I will be there on Monday. So that took a huge chunk of that X-Men 1 money pot. And so that is, I'm kind of all head to steam on that that front. So it's X-Men 1 is first and foremost. That's it. And then from there are 3 books I want to look at. And I want to be able to get at least one more of these 3. And it'd be Fantastic Four #5, Toss 39, or Jim 83. So it's X-Men 1 and then one of those 3. And I would say probably FF5 and Toss 39 I like above Jim 83. And it would just be a determinant of like which one has the better deal that comes up when I have the ability to get it.
Cool.
Right now, FF5 has really come down in price. I've seen so many good deals out there, but
yeah.
That's the Doom cover, right? Or the first appearance
of
Doom.
First appearance of Doom, yeah.
Cool. I don't have specific book goals. I've been soul searching for 6 months now, trying to figure out what I really want to do because I have the run that I love. I mean, it's all about for me the new X-Men team. So Giant Size and up to about the Claremont run, and so and I already have all those. So I think I'll just be kind of looking through the books to see like what always kind of makes me cringe a little bit when I flip through and see this copy and just do some upgrades here and there. But I feel kind of content, and I think that I want to make more goals that are more philosophical, just kind of guide me along. I still want to be able to buy books here and there, but I want to just curate my collection so that it's Rohan is a good somebody I kind of use as an example of the type of collection I want to build to just a couple of short boxes. Or what do you have? Just one short box? Is that right, Rohan?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have like 40 or like about 40 comics.
Okay, yeah, so half a box, right?
And Lawrence is even smaller now. Well, I guess you have the ASM run, so that.
Yeah, I mean, you two are both inspirations to me. We all want to, gear down to get just those big books that everyone we look at just makes us real happy. And so I just need to just figure out exactly what that is for myself. I don't have a specific, and I don't like setting specific goals to get a book because I know I will end up overpaying for it in order to achieve that goal. And the most fulfillment I've gotten out of this hobby is just serendipity playing its role, and just you come upon the perfect situation where it's the right time to get that book. I'd like to keep it loose.
Me and you are kind of like at the same gesture right now. Like I just completed my ASM run. Like and I say this all the time, like once you have like the things that you're content with, just like you said, it becomes like, well, what now? Like, everything becomes like, well, do I need that? Do I want that? Am I just buying that because I'm bored and like you become an addict with collecting? Like it becomes that. So like it's a good scenario out there for people who are in our situation as me and Dan, where you don't necessarily have to go out and buy something if you don't want it. You really have to have it calling to you. That's why I think a lot of the market crashed in 2023, because people were dumping books they didn't really want. So they started seeing prices going on, like, oh shit, I better go sell this right now before I take an even bigger loss. And then it just created further losses for everybody out there. So for me, I'm going to answer this right now. You asked me before if I'm looking to get any of my Silver Age stuff back that I traded, and if I can get it for a deal, I'll go out and do it. Like I'll always go look for those books no matter what, because they're bigger books. Like if I go see a Jim 83, which to me is like one of my favorite covers for like a non-Spidey book. That's a great cover. So I'm like, you still could find a nice looking copy for like $3,000. So if I find one for a good price, that's a good grade or a nice raw copy that has no resto, that somebody hasn't graded yet, like I might pull the trigger on that. Same with like a TOS 39.
I don't know if he's still with us, but that Swagglehouse got the Jim 83 this year, and it's a 1.5, and he got for $3,000. But the thing is why on the front it looks like a 4.
I know the back
it's making a corner. Like I would take that all day.
That's
right my point.
Like wheelhouse,
that's like where you get into that feeling, like, you know what, that's a book that's worth it because it presents so well. That's like, you know what, for $3,000, that's a great price. I was talking to my friend Danny. We always talk because he's in the chat, and he says this year is going to be his AF-15 year. And I've sent them numerous, like when I see one go up, I'm like, this is a nice copy for a decent price. But like one I sent him was like I don't remember if it was a 1.0 or it was a 1.5, but it presented really nice. And there was like a tear on the back. And I'm like, dude, this is a great copy. Literally, like within sending it to him, like 30 minutes to an hour later, somebody bought it. I'm like, see, that was a great price for a really nice looking copy of that book. So I'm with you. If I find something for a deal, I'll buy it. But you guys know, if you're a member of the channel, I do these videos like once every 3 months about stuff I'm looking for. There's one coming soon. So I don't want to release to everybody out there what's coming next, but there's something coming soon. So be on the lookout if you're a member of what's coming. But
wait, there's a video coming of what you want, or there's a book coming that you're going to unbox?
No, something coming that I'm looking to buy. The members get stuff like every couple of months that I'm looking to buy that's in my head. So like, like if I could get this, I'm going to go after it. So they always get it. And then like after I get it, like 4 months after that, I'll release it to everybody so they see it.
Yeah. You know, actually, can I ask you a quick question, Lawrence? This is now actually on books you got. The last book I remember you showing, and I could be wrong, in terms of the big books, was that the Action Comics that has the first image of Batman.
Yes.
Right.
Action 12.
Yes. How do you display that? Like, I know you got a nice room there.
So this is a great question. So I don't know if you saw this. Give me 1 second.
While he's grabbing that, I wanted to mention that something that Manu, the 999 noon stand, had mentioned was, do we have to, if we love something, do we have to own it to love it? And that was a line that I really appreciated.
You could always admire it without even owning it, right? So I don't know if you remember when I got this book, it was coverless.
Yeah.
It was coverless, and there was another page that was missing. I got a repro cover.
Oh, nice. That looks sharp.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. It looks, it's a fucking 9.8, right? It looks fucking phenomenal.
Where did you get a repro cover from?
A guy on eBay, $20, and it's fucking phenomenal. The back, the interior of the front and back cover and this cover are perfect. And it's what's weird is the guy sent me, I think he did it by accident, but he sent me a book. I don't even have this book.
Oh, he sent you that for free?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that a repro or is that the actual comic?
No, it's the repro. It's a repro cover.
Oh, that's great.
So now you have to show it up.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in a repro cover, it took about a month to do. But look at that.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. I have a coverless back and front cover missing from a giant size X-Men. I was considering getting the reproduction cover.
$20, totally worth it. Just for display purposes, totally worth it.
Okay.
Wait, so I guess that answers the
So,
question though, Lawrence. You don't display it like open to the Batman page then?
so before I got the cover, I did display it like that because
Oh,
I thought,
okay.
like, I want to be. You want to see it, right? That's like,
Yeah.
that's why I bought the book. I don't care that it was not complete. I would have just bought the page. I don't even care. But just to have like the first appearance of Batman is like not everybody could have that. I want to say there's like 50 copies of on the census of that book total.
If you had bought that book slabbed, would you have cracked it?
No, I'm not that crazy, bro. Because there's
It's
one
fun
right
to
now on
play with the
Heritage.
idea, though.
There's one on Heritage right now. It's a 2.5 old label, and I'm looking at it. At the last I checked, I think it was like either $3,000 or $6,000. That's a good price for that book, man. Considering of what's that coupon. So I don't know. Somebody's in the. I know Swag's covered on a recent video he did. So that's one that I'm watching right now. I'm not gonna buy it, but I just want to see what it goes for.
Yeah, I was talking to Errol the other day. I know you know Errol very well, and he was telling me he's looking to get the reverse. So the Detective Comics or the is it more funnies,
More fun,
More fun.
more fun comics.
Well, yeah, that has the ad for Superman for Action
Yeah.
1 in this, so same kind of concept.
That's harder to find, man. That's got to be more scarce.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to see in the chat what they're looking for. So I have Danny saying this is the year of AF-15. That's what I said. Here we go. House of Secrets 92 and Primer 2. Marvel number
Right
1.
on.
I'm not sure if this dude means Marvel Comics number 1 or if that's a different Marvel number 1. NYX3 and Ultimate Fallout 4. X-Men 266 in a high grade. Here you go. Here's a ghost. Iron Fist 14, but the 35-cent variant. That's a tough one. Very tough.
I've never seen one for. Well, no, I have seen one for sale.
You have?
Yeah, I think it was on Elite actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I think that's.
But I see more Star Wars 135-cent than I do Iron Fist 14 35-cent.
Like I said, that all the 35 cents are tough. I know Newsstand Collector over on Instagram, he just got a Godzilla 35-cent variant, or a 30-cent variant, one of them that I've never seen before. So that's a big one. So all right. So while I got you here, there's a couple announcements I want to make. That for 2024, what I wanted to see what everybody's looking for, but while I got you guys here, I want to make an announcement. So we're at 6,300 subs right now, and we're doing a 7,000 sub giveaway. So I'm actually going to announce what we're giving away right now for 7,000. So I saw this on a IG live sale, and it's go ahead and snatch it up. So we're giving this away at 7,000 to one lucky sub, and it is a copy of ASM 16, nice. First Daredevil and Spidey crossover. It's like a 1.5, 1.8. We have this graded. It's a decent copy. Presents really nice. The colors are nice, but we're going to give this away for 7,000 subs once we get there. So if you're not a sub already, guys, do me a favor, hit the sub button, smash the like button, because there's so much good stuff. I can't even announce yet that like I'm having stuff done for the channel. Like I can't freaking wait. So much good stuff coming.
That's killer, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. So I know, Rohan, you have a YouTube channel. Dan, we got to get you on YouTube, at least talking some stuff about comics.
So Lawrence, the joke that we have is that Dan should start a channel and just parody all the other YouTube comic and just like make fun of us. And I think that would be hilarious. That's the joke I've been trying to get Dan to do.
There's already somebody doing that, but he's not doing it, in a nice way.
Oh man, dude! I can't believe your giveaway though. The that Didco art, that the arms all over the place, and I love that.
Yeah, no,
it's a great book. So
that's so sick.
I always try to do something good for the people who actually watch me. So if you like I said, if you haven't been watching my stuff, just go back and watch some of the older videos because there's some really good shit there.
Yeah.
What about you, Rohan?
Congratulations on the growth and the planning ahead, Lawrence.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you coming on today. Rohan, for your channel this year, if you guys haven't know, he's on the Absolute Game of Nerds podcast. He does every Monday. They come out with new episodes, but they also post some other stuff as well during the week, unboxing, stuff like that. They go to some shows, some LCSs. They post some stuff like that. So anything content-wise that you're doing this year that's new or fun or anything you want to tell anybody out there?
Yeah, so the Monday episodes are always interviews, and we've still got those rolling. And then the other ones are like unboxing videos or things like that. One new thing, and this isn't necessarily comic related, but again, like I use my channel because it is literally a lot of fun for me. Like I really look forward to doing our interviews and then, making content for the, and so in addition to comics, I also have a huge love for the A Song of Ice and Fire series, which, is the Game of Thrones TV show. And like, I really like when JP and I have done like the Marvel movie review episodes. And so House of Dragon season 2 comes out this summer. And so I'm going to do like review episodes just as like something else to add to the channel, just to mix up. That'd be the only new thing. Otherwise, the interviews will keep rolling. The unboxings as they come will keep rolling, that kind of thing.
All right. So let me ask you guys this. Is there anything that, and pose this question to anyone out there in the community, or if you watch any show that I do, is there anything you want to see out of me this year that you haven't seen yet? I mean, I do a lot of stuff like value-wise. I do a lot of other stuff like you see me do some Garbage Pail Kids stuff, and there's always going to be stuff like that because, believe it or not, my highest viewed video is a Garbage Pail Kids video.
Oh, so, interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so you're mixing up the genres too.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring everything collectible in, but is there anything that you guys want to see or anyone out there in the community that I don't do now that you'd love to see? Drop me a line. I
always love philosophical conversations about collecting, about like what you're aiming to do, how you goal setting, how you achieve those goals. I love the story about your trading up for
Batman 1.
Your huge, the Batman 1, right? And trading up for huge keys because it's inspirational. It gives me new ideas and just kind of understanding how that all works. Because when you're just starting collecting or getting back into it, it's hard to imagine being able to achieve something like that. So seeing it done from you is very inspirational.
A lot of it is timing, and I've said that before, is when you kind of start, and then now with the market the way it is, and we'll end this thing on this question, is like with the market where it is now, where 2020, 2021, and then 2022, and then 2023, everything come crashing down. Now I think it's a really good time if you're starting to collect and you want some of the bigger books that you've never had, because they're right at those prices they were back in 2018 for the most part. Some of them have gone up a little bit, yeah, but you're right back where you were, except maybe, some of them have gone up more and they've held. Like some of the bigger Marvel blue chips, they've held for the most part, like where they were in 2018 compared to where we are now. But now's a great time if you're a long-term holder. Like I'm 46. I maybe got another 20 years. Arrow brought up a great point. Like he's 50. He doesn't want to hold for 20 years. He don't want to hold till he's 70 because then he'll be like, he'll probably need the money beforehand. So if you're our age or younger, now is a great time to kind of get in there. And if you're willing to hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I am all for prices falling and prices falling even more because, like I definitely bought when I first came in, like I said, it was right in the boom. So yeah, there are some big books I have that have come way down. I don't care because I don't plan to sell them anytime soon, right? Like I bought these because I want to hold them for the long term. And so the more they come down, that just means the more it kind of like something like this. Like I like to think about it as, let's just say if it all went to zero, I would still get to enjoy my collection, right? So I'm not upset about that. So the cheaper they get just means the better I can make my collection. So keep it falling. I'm all good with that because I'm not a dealer though. If you're a dealer, I get where you're coming from, but that is not me. I'm a collector. And so lower prices just mean I can make my collection better.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I've been brainstorming a little bit like the art of the deal, maybe go into a con and try to negotiate with the dealer, like on camera, if they were okay with that, might be a good video. Yeah. If that could happen, maybe if they would allow it. Same with like maybe an Instagram seller, like documenting that through video, even if it's one of the bigger guys who's willing to do it, who I may know personally or not, if they're willing to do that. If like a newcomer who's not really on Instagram, or if they never bought an Instagram book before, what to look for, signs of scams, maybe that may be something people be interested in. So if you're interested in that, do me a favor, drop me comments in the video because I'm looking for new stuff to do for you guys. So
yeah, I mean, I think kind of going off what Dan said too in that question, like, I really enjoy your lives, and that's when you talk about the things that Dan was talking about, like, how you set your goals, how you aspire to get to them, those things like that. Like there are literally so many comic book channels out there that talk about like books to spec on. But like, I don't need more of that. Right. I like hearing how you got your Batman 1. And like because you the first time you came onto our show, you talked about how you were going to get that. And then you got it. And then you talked about how you got it. Like that's the stuff I like. Cause we can live vicariously through you and then plan away
some of those, strategies.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you also see, like, you guys both follow me on Instagram. I follow both you guys. For a week in a row, I put out who wants to come on the channel, and Dan showed up like last minute. I didn't know he was coming, and of course, and Rohan, we talk all the time. So like, it's we have a little bit more rapport. So I ask him all the time, "You want to come on? You want to come on? You want to come on?" So like, nobody jumped on. I'm happy Dan came on here. That we got another person to kind of call him, and because I think it's better when you're talking 3 people because there's like a conversation instead of just 2 people talking at each other. So that's why I say I love doing live streams. I love them, but it's hard to do them when it's just me talking to no one.
I got you.
Well, here you go.
I understand the awkwardness that can come from that, talking to yourself. But honestly, I do enjoy that when you're talking and conversing with chat. It is just something that I can pop on and do some chores around the house and feel like I really am absorbing, just some of the things that you're thinking about. And that's and you compile all those things together from different collectors, and you kind of create your own collecting philosophy behind that.
And that's a great point. I like some of the same things, right? I always listen to like other people's shows, like live shows when I'm driving to work in the morning because I go to work early. So I always do that as well. So I really appreciate the input because that's something I need to hear going forward. So maybe I'll do more live stuff and, give my thoughts and opinions. And I don't want to be too opinionated on the show. I already do that on the Hot 10 breakdown, and people come at me all the time. Why don't you like this book? Why don't you like this book? So I don't want to be like that guy that's like always, well, you do this, do that. I don't tell anybody what to do. I simply tell you what I do, and you can make your own decisions.
I mean, I think you do a good job of explaining like, hey, this is just my opinion. I'm an ASM guy. That's why I choose this book when you do those top 10 book lists. But you can't help the people who are going to tell you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But even like this week, ASM 28 was on list first multi-man. I said it was a no buy because I'm not spending $3,000 on a 9 point whatever copy. That's insanity. Like I own like $100 copy in my collection. That's all I need.
Oh, well, actually you are wrong about that one, Lawrence.
No?
Yeah, no, I'm just trolling you.
To each his own, man. I mean, that's the thing.
I'm actually surprised, Lawrence, recently how much you've been saying ASM 50 isn't an investment book. Now, I understand where you're coming from, but like for as much as you love that book, I'm kind of surprised. How
that actually did surprise me. That statement surprised me.
Listen, for a time like 4 or 5 years ago when I bought that book, you could find that book in high grade for like $500. So it's gone up in high grade. I'll tell you right now, I have an ASM 50 signed by Stanley and John Romita at an 8.0. I paid $5,000 for it. I don't care that it's overpaid now. It's probably worth like $3,500 now. I don't care because I love the book. And how many copies out there are signed by Stanley and John Romita? I don't know, but I don't care because I love the book. It just has so much meaning, but it's not. It should be worth more than what it's worth, but it's not. So that tells me that people aren't in love with the book as much as I am.
That's the book you got to have too, though. The books that you love and you look at and it just fills your heart.
100%. Because if you're not buying it, then you start to get the crash where everybody starts dumping shit all at once, and that's exactly what happened.
And then you got no fear, from those crashes because you're happy with the book.
Yeah, I mean, I liquidated. That's part of what 2023 was for me. It was, I did do a big trade, but then I needed to recoup some cash. So I said, I'm not married to it. I got to sell it. If I'm not getting crushed on a price, I'll just sell it. Even if I had to take a little bit of a loss, I'm fine with it. Like I bought an FF5. It was a 3.0. I ended up taking like $1,000 loss on it. Like, what am I going to do? I'd rather have the money at that point, and I still have another copy. So I didn't need it.
One, right?
Yeah, I because I love Doom. But I found a copy that was a good price. I bought it. I had a second copy. I sold that one just to recoup some money. So like, that's the thing. If you're able to make money on a comic at some point, that's why I say timing is everything. If you buy now and let's say 10 years again, I never think we're going to get the boom we had, but let's say 10 years from now, like you make 33% of your money. Is it the worst thing? No, that you made money and you don't love the book. All right, sell it. Maybe I'll buy another book and all right, I made $5,000 on that book or $2,000 on that book, and I could flip it into something that I really want, or I could just pocket the money. I don't care. That's what it's what keeps it fun.
I think that has helped me let go of some books because I have a big problem, or like I just mentally blocking myself from letting go of some of these books if I don't own a duplicate copy. But Rohan's told me a few times, I've learned from you, Lawrence, that most of these books that we're collecting, unless you're into Golden Age or really obscure low print runs indie books or something. All these books are very common, and we can let go of them.
I think that's, and ASM 50, as you just said, like, I think is a good example of what we're talking. I do think as collectors, we often think all of our books are like investment grade, we'll say. And I really don't think that's just like, when it really boils down to it, that's really not the case. Like, there are a very select few that are, and most of us don't have all of our books that are those books. Like,
But here's the thing: people talk about investment grade, like high grade stuff, even if they're big Silver Age keys. Like, the way I look at it is this: if you buy a book and in long term, it's worth more than when you bought it, you win. That's the way I look at it. Like, if it makes you happy, if you're not losing money and you're able to sell it for $1 more than you bought it for, you're a fucking winner. Because you enjoyed that book, you had it for 20 years or 15 years or 5 minutes, and you had it, and now it's gone, and you made a little bit of money, you win.
Talking about investment grades and bringing us back to that beginning talk about the CGC 9.8s, those bigger books. Rohan and I were talking about how potentially, 9.6s, that's the investment grade, because there's such a huge jump between the difference in cost. Basically, like, wherever the biggest jump is in difference in value, you buy the highest grade where it doesn't jump up a cliff, right? That appears to be, the books that are worth the value, because I just cannot get behind buying a 9.8, unless it's because of the differences between some 9.6s and 9.8s. Like, I just got a 9.8 graded book, but I kind of think it's more like a 9.4 or maybe a 9.6, and they gave me that grade, which I'm happy about, and I will not hesitate to sell it, because that
it really depends on the book. Crazy. It depends on the book, because obviously we're seeing now with the whole reholder scandal. Like, just look at ASM 300. They were like 500 and change 9.8s. That's crazy. Like, just in one grade, there's 500 change, and this guy had 50 of them. So to me, like, I always say, like, I would love to have a 9.8, but like, is it worth it? There's 500 other copies out there.
I also think too, at that high end, right, the more valuable a book is, the more it can drop, right? Like, TMNT 1 first print 9.8 was selling for $240K. It's now at $120K. That book is still so awesome, but like, that's a 50% drop. Whereas oftentimes, like, I think AF15 is a good example. Like, at that 1.0 grade, that floor is almost rock solid, because there's always someone that wants to get into that book.
There should be more buyers for it,
right? And so it's like, I get why big time guys want to get the high grade, but like, that's why I'm all good with the low grades, like, because those floors, people always want these books, and there's only so many people can buy those super expensive ones. So your floor is pretty solid on a lot of these big keys, I always find,
especially in the Silver Age, because still a lot of those keys are very desirable. So the lower grade, somebody's always snatching them up. But when we talk about bronze, and then you start getting into that area, there's just the census numbers are out of control, especially in higher grades. So like, yeah, we want to own higher grades, but if you just want to own the book, just own the book. It doesn't matter at that point. There's someone again
at a grade that you or rather not necessarily the grade, but the presentation that you prefer.
Yeah. So even like a Hulk 181, someone always wants to buy a Hulk 181. It's never not going to go out of style. It's just, I don't think people want to overpay for a Hulk 181 when there are so many out there. So that's a better way of putting it. But it's always going to be desirable. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Good point.
So listen,
you just don't want to overpay.
We've been on for an hour and 40 minutes, and I know Rohan had something to do tonight, so I don't want to keep you guys any longer. And my voice,
my
I don't know if you can tell, is killing me.
Under the door here.
So I want to thank both you guys for hopping on, Rohan planned and Dan unplanned, which is a very, very pleasant surprise. So again, I really appreciate both of you coming on and spending some time with me, and hopefully we could do this again, because this was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I had a ton of fun. Really appreciate you opening it up and making it so easy for me. So thanks. I'm sorry we didn't get the couple of guys to flash us. But,
So, but just so you know, there were two people waiting, and they had to put a video on, and there was no face. Some guy was looking down a peephole with his eye. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is. So I'm not letting him on. But either way, I want to wish you guys both a happy collecting 2024. And now I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys at THEMIGHTYRPH this year.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
All right, guys. Thank
All
you
right,
again,
Lawrence.
everyone out there in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will talk to you later. Thank you, guys.
Peace out.